Hey there guys, welcome to my channel. So a week ago I made a video gaming in a Windows virtual machine to check out the X11 and see how it runs in general, and performance was pretty alright. So I wondered, does Linux virtual machine gaming runs the same way? Does it run good like you would expect, or does it run like shit? That's what we're about to figure out in a bit. So I installed American Truck in Linux VM, which is Ubuntu 20.10, a beta, and I want to see if that will run according to my expectation, or if it will run like Garbo and make me out of 4 and cry in a corner for days. So yeah, it's about it. It's a fresh VM. I didn't do anything to it, basically just installed the system, and apparently Ubuntu does install VM tools automatically now because the Windows scaled and stuff, and the graphics are apparently working, 3D Excel and stuff, so I assume I'm good to go. So let's just launch the game itself. American Truck Sim. Let's hit play. And see what happens. That's the whole premise of this video. Alright, so continue game. As you can see, it's a fresh new save game, no mods, nothing, just the basic game. Loading takes quite a bit compared to the actual thing. But there you have it. Oh. The second loading screen? Okay. Yeah, sure. Oh well. Right. 22 FPS. Loading screen, that's not a good sign, I guess. Okay, so let's go for a quick breakdown now. Oh, right. So we are already in. It didn't load into the menu first. So let me show you the graphics settings first and foremost. So, wow, menu runs pretty well. As you can see, 60 FPS. It's amazing. Right. So first of all, let's get rid of the music. Graphics, audio, master volume, music volume, this can go away, game sounds volume, radio volume. Okay, music volume is supposed to be gone, but it's not gone. What the hell, bro? Just so you can see, as you can see, I'm running ultra settings. Bro, what the hell? Oh, UI, music, there you go, it's gone. Okay, so let's go for a quick graphics settings breakdown. Ultra settings, 1080p, advanced settings. Okay, so it's just 125% scaling. Well, underwhelming. Performance is rather underwhelming, but it's understandable considering it's a virtual machine and it's OpenGL, which performs, well, you know, like Garbo at the on NVIDIA hardware in general. But yeah, let's hit drive around, see how the frames behave. So far we're getting 46, 47, which is pretty good for ultra settings. It stirs a little bit. Well, I mean, it's a virtual machine. It's not like you can expect anything better than that. So it's definitely not going to be native performance. And I'm going to show you guys something in a bit. My task manager on Windows, showing how much of the card is actually being used. And you're going to be surprised. It's not a lot. So it's barely putting any strain on my graphics card right now. Nor is it putting any strain on the CPU. So yeah. It is what it is. But the sole fact that we can sort of game on older settings in a virtual machine, and a Linux virtual machine for that matter, that's a huge advancement, considering back in the day that wouldn't be quite possible. I mean, it would be, but it would be even worse. Like performance, forget about it. Like ultra settings, 1080p, forget about it totally. That wouldn't run at all. And now we sort of can, fill limitations, which should be expected, all things considered. I mean, it's a Windows host running a Linux guest, and it's not a full graphics card pass-through, because, you know, it could be just shy at like 10% of the actual performance. Oh my god, I got a red sign of offense. I don't care. But yeah, so basically, it's doable, but it's not what you would expect. So no, that's not the same performance that you would get from like an actual KVM virtual machine with full GPU pass-through. But then again, you should expect that. I mean, it's not full GPU pass-through at all. Still the old SVGA drivers, so bruh, you know, it won't be like just shy 10% of your raw GPU performance, but it means you can sort of game to an extent, and it just works. Yeah, it's far from perfect, but it's good enough. And then again, that's a native Linux game, so I'm not using Proton, which I wanted to test in a bit, maybe for a second video, who knows. Like running Windows games in Linux in a virtual machine, which is running on top of Windows 10. The irony. But yeah, I want to test that out, see how it behaves. And as you can see, another issue I just found out is that the controller doesn't really behave as it should as well. I'm passing through my controller to the virtual machine, and as you can tell, it's a little screwed up. Sensitivity settings, far too sensitive, but it's vibrating sometimes. It seems to be delayed a little bit, but yeah, the sensitivity is just all messed up. It's a nightmare. But yeah, I mean, if you probably won't get that if you use the keyboard, and it's probably a matter of just tweaking the settings. But considering it works straight out of the box on Windows, that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I mean, considering I tried this before and it didn't work at all. Like it would chop like 5 FPS, 2 FPS. It was basically unplayable, and now it just works somehow. It didn't work on 2004. I don't know why. I tried to update the VMware tools. It didn't really do anything. It kept just like running like crap. And then I tried with Pop! OS, and it did work, although performance was also a little far from what I would like from what I would call playable, but it was substantially better than on 2004. And now on 20.10, it sort of works. I mean, considering its ultra settings, 25 FPS is good, pretty good. So yeah, you can game in a virtual machine, and it sort of works, but why? You know, I mean, I'm doing this for science. It's not like it has any application for that kind of case scenario, for that usage. You know, of course you could probably run some models, or you know, something that only runs on Linux. Then, you know, Windows is your system, then you need to run your advanced 3D model thing or whatever that only runs on Linux, and then you don't want to do it. So now you can sort of use it in a virtual machine. it won't be like top-notch performance, but hey, it will work to an extent. It's just a curiosity more so rather than anything practical. It's not like, oh, you know, no one would actually do this because it's torture. It runs like crap, but hey, it works. That's a plus. I mean, I'm gaming in a virtual machine, ultra settings, and somehow it just works. Stable enough. That's quite a step forward. If you consider that back in the day, gaming in a virtual machine was basically just an idea more so than anything tangible that it could actually do. I mean, it would run, but you know, it's still, I would say it's still quite like that to an extent, because it's not like 60 FPS. It's barely using a card, but it's getting more and more solid rather than just an idea, rather than just, you know, something that you could possibly do, but you know, with limitations. It's far off native performances for sure. Same settings, I would be getting nearly 150 FPS Windows. So yeah, just for comparison, because I run it locked at 60 because I have a 60 hertz panel, so no point going further than that. But yeah, I run locked at 60, and the average usage of 400% scaling, which is basically 4K in 1080p, I get like average 50-60% usage, and 60 FPS locked all the time. And here I'm getting like 34%, give or take, which is underwhelming to say the least. So I'm gonna alt tab now, Control actually, and show you guys the GPU usage. So here's the task manager. As you can see, my RAM is crying right now. The usage is always around 40% ballpark, as you can see. It has a couple of dips. That's when the game stutters. See, it dips down to 20%, but usually 40%. That's the average it sits at, and it's using just a little bit of the VRAM. I cannot use 8 gigs of VRAM still, because VMware Workstation does let you use 8 gigs now, but you have to assign 16 gigs for the virtual machine, which I don't have. I mean, I do have, but I cannot assign my whole RAM. The max I can go is like 12 without issues. So when I get my upgrade, when I get my new kit, I plan to run this test again with the 8 gigs of VRAM and see if there's any differences when it comes to performance. Because as of right now, it works, but it's not practical. Maybe with the 8 gigs of VRAM, something magical is gonna happen and I'm gonna get better performance, who knows. I'm gonna wait for it to happen. Which is not gonna take long. My kit's coming, so I'll finally be able to run a VM with 16 gigs of RAM, even more of RAM, I mean not VRAM, maybe even more, like 24 gigs of RAM. And then assign 8 gigs of VRAM for the virtual machine and see how that scales up. But yeah, it's more so a showcase rather than anything, so I think you guys have seen enough. I'm gonna try it out with Proton later on and see how it performs compared to native Linux games, because this one is a native port. But I wonder how it will work with like a game that's not actually compatible with Linux, like Farming Sim. I think Farming Sim is not Linux compatible. I could be wrong, actually, but I think it is not. And then run it on top of Proton with Wine and see, and compare the figures actually, because I ran Farming Sim in a VM before, like my first video on Windows, and it ran at like 55, dipping to 40 FPS, maxed out 1080p. So I'm gonna try run it with the same settings, basically 1080p ultra, actually very high, not ultra, but it only goes up to very high, so let's call it ultra. and see how the frames compare. I assume it's gonna run substantially worse because it's, you know, not native, but I say around the 40 FPS ballpark, just a shot in the dark basically. But yeah, that's about it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. As said before, it's not anything that you would do, and I assume that's probably the only video you're gonna find on the entirety of YouTube, because no one else is gonna try this, because this is dumb. It's a waste of network downloading the game. It's a waste of time, because of course it's not gonna run well. But it's just to show that yes, you can sort of do it. It does have its caveats, but yeah, I mean, it works. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any sort of feedback, comment section is right down below. Feel free to like and subscribe if you wish, dislike if you wish as well. I don't mind. The feedback's always good. So yeah, y'all take care. Have a nice day, and adios.